Seeing everybody. We have some good shrimp again? Great, great. Can y'all hear me like this okay? Or do I need that? Okay, all right. Well, today we're going to finish up our last talk. Now, we'll go into a little bit of this on the Sunday sermon, but I like to preach off the gospel on Sundays. So this is kind of a little bit of the wrap-up on healing and brokenness and accepting your brokenness and the beauty of that. So I kind of wanted to start with a little bit of scripture. What does the gospel tell us about brokenness? And we can look to Matthew chapter 11, where Jesus says, "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your soul. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light." So we hear Jesus talking about when we have times where we feel something heavy or a brokenness or something, to come to Jesus, and that he can bring healing to that God's healing will come from that. If you look back in the Old Testament, I like the Psalms. The book of Psalms has been one of the most salvific books in my life, and it's come to me at times when I really needed it. But there's specifically one about brokenness, and it's Psalm 34. He is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. God restores our hearts if we let God do that. So that's something to come to from a point of view from Scripture. It's been an area of my life that has been increasing, and I would probably say, if you have a relationship with anything, have a relationship with Scripture. There's been times in my life where I've literally just been in the deepest part of despair, and literally had, those thoughts which you think are yours in the back of your head, because it sounds like your voice thoughts, but it's not, because you wouldn't normally think that. But I've had times where it's come and it said, turn to Psalm 62, or turn to Psalm, what Stephen said, 51 has come up in my life, or Psalm 103, and they just pop in. And this was before I was a priest. This was before I was even in the process to be a priest. And those things would come out, and I would turn, I'd grab my book of Common Prayer and go to where the Psalms are in there, and find something that was just mending my heart. So, in part of seeing your brokenness and healing from brokenness and finding beauty in it is have a relationship with Scripture. And if it's something that doesn't make sense, go ask somebody that you think knows how to make sense out of it. Sometimes when two or three are together, you can find a way through that. Well, also in appreciating and accepting brokenness, there's something culturally that we all kind of deal with, like when a best friend walks in the room, or a spouse, or a sibling, or just a close buddy, and you say, "Hey, how are you doing?" What do we say? "I'm fine." Our culture teaches us to say that. "I'm fine." Are you really fine? Maybe, most of the time. But are there times when you say, "I'm fine," and you're not? Because our culture teaches us to put forward that facade, that fake face of wellness and perfection. And we're used to that, very much used to that. Sometimes you have to do that, like when you're getting ready to walk into a board meeting, or when I'm on the side of the road on a traffic stop, or let's just say you're having a really bad day, but your spouse had a worse day. Sometimes you have to say, "I'm fine." But you don't always have to say you're fine, because this culture has made us to where we present that image forward, because we've kind of been taught that vulnerability and brokenness is not good. And I think we need to take a different look at some of that stuff, and that's part of what this is about. So it's hiding those cracks is what we do. Now, at some point, you're going to try to fill those cracks with something. And the art project that we've been doing is you're filling those cracks with the pottery broken with gold, to where the beauty comes out. And that's a metaphor for filling your cracks with something helpful and saving. But at some point, we're going to try to fill those cracks with something that isn't. They're going to get filled. It's just maybe going to be in an unhealthy way. And so watch out for those unhealthy ways, whether it be alcohol, surfing the internet too much, or gambling, or whatever it is. It could be anything to anybody. In some cases, mine is like getting on trains.com and hitting put in shopping cart too many times. I didn't just say that out loud, did I? But our society teaches us to be fearless. And there are those indeed times where we have to be fearless. But don't be fearless in hiding your emotion when it needs to come out. So, there's something that I want to read from a new favorite book of mine. Tammy graciously gifted us this book, and I've been going through it since we've been here, kind of my little devotional time. And there's an excerpt in here that I'd like to read. And this goes back to accepting yourself, accepting the beauty of your brokenness and that healing. And it's called taking care of yourself. So, it goes like this. Finally, I would like to share one of my epiphany moments with you. It happened at Cursillo, which is a type of spiritual retreat at Mustang Island. Bishop Foltz was a former Baptist, turned Episcopalian, turned bishop, just like me, except not the bishop part. When I had a similar upbringing, and I had a great affinity for him, then gained great respect. All who knew him loved him, and when he speaks, people listen. He has a great speaking style of hesitation at the right moment. Well, at Cursillo, he was giving a talk, and he hesitated. You could hear a pin drop as everyone leaned in to hear the next word he said. And he said, having hope versus having despair is a choice. I will say it again. Having hope and having despair is a choice. It is not a feeling. So despair for a moment for me despair for a moment for me if you need to. I know it is natural, especially today, but please don't stay there. Don't let despair paralyze you. Very valuable when it comes to the work of healing and brokenness and accepting brokenness and seeing that brokenness as beauty. Sometimes we're going to despair. It's natural. It's okay. And sometimes it's necessary. But don't stay there too long. That's the point of accepting this beauty in brokenness. Your beauty is your brokenness. This goes back to the Kitsugi art, but the other part of that, which I've been studying, and we briefly talked about this on Thursday, is the wabi-sabi. Now, in Western culture, we are taught to seek perfection. We're at a very young age. I remember my mother. We would go shopping, and it's still in me today. I'll reach for a plate on the shelf at the store, or I'll pick up a pair of jeans, and I will immediately start perusing that thing with a magnifying glass, looking for a loose thread or a seam that didn't get stitched, or maybe this mug that I just bought at the Lexington, it's got a chip on the bottom or something. Nope, put that one back. I'm going to get the best one. That was something that was just ingrained in me and my mother. I even remember a story where my grandmother was picking out something for herself and my mom, and she picks it out. She looks at the first one. It's got a crack and a slight flaw in the design. She hands it to my mother and picks up another one that's perfect for her. So it's just in us, and it's in Western society to reach for that perfection, whereas wabi-sabi is recognizing the beauty in the imperfection. The wabi means literally living in solitude and embracing the beauty of the imperfection. Do y'all remember at some point you've ever seen that classic airplane stamp with the airplane that's upside down? It's a highly sought after collector's item. It was an accident. The Postal Service printed 100 of these before they realized that the airplane was upside down. Well, the last time I saw, when they found, there's only been 100 that have been found. When they found it, that one stamp was valued at $1.5 million. Talk about accepting the imperfection and turning it into something of value. So that's what the wabi means. The sabi is the other half of that, a state of determining over time, an expression that the effect of time has on the subject. Basically, what that means is, you ever seen antique art? and how sometimes it's started to fade in the cracks in the paint, and then the frame has taken on a patina with the wear and tear, and how that has become more valuable. Or maybe a piece of pottery, or you look at a building and the patina on the walls and it gives a beauty to it, and that's what they're talking about. It's about when that thing takes on a beauty through age and through use and through time. I'm not going to go into it, but those of you that know the story of the Velveteen Rabbit, the story of the rabbit, how his hair's rubbed off, and his buttons have fallen off, and how he's come into a maturity and a beauty with that age. That's what the sabi is. So the wabi-sabi is the combination of these two things together. So I came across a quote, and I won't be able to say his name correctly, but he is a Japanese philosopher. And if you want to know the name, I have it written down, so you can ask me later. I'm not going to do the injustice of murdering his beautiful name. But he has this quote: "We do not dislike everything that shines, but we do prefer a pensive luster to a shallow brilliance, or an artifact which has a sheen of antiquity. We love things that bear the marks of grime, soot, and weather." And so with that, I would say, look at yourselves. Look at the mark, the grime, and the soot that we've all taken on through our brokenness. See that beautiful thing that God sees. Try to see yourself the way God sees you, not the way people see you. And maybe we can start to recognize the flaws and the imperfection and see the beauty in that. Because ultimately, the gospel message is, let your light shine before others, that you may brighten, it's not a direct quote, but that you may brighten the world around you. And when we can do that, when we can see ourselves and see the beauty in our brokenness, like I said yesterday, it gives other people the permission to have that beauty also. That's what we're talking about. And that's the healing in this entire story. So keep that in mind. And would you like to have a song for us?